Hello and welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. This is Too Many Bones, and we are currently on day number 7 of our journey to go after Drellen Paleface. We've made enough progress to end up in Shellfish, but we are kind of toying around the outskirts of this city here, looking to boost up Patches, who needs a little bit more skill dice, but also really wants some Trove Loot. So first off, I want to thank everybody for all the comments and feedback about which of the two choices on the encounter I should go for in this next video. I always take everyone's feedback into consideration, but we did have one that came up on top in terms of how many people wanted to do it, and that was the Trove Loot, and I think everyone's just dying to see how that mechanic works. And also, we didn't really pull any Trove Loot. We've got lots of regular loot, and we've got a stone hammer, which is just itching to break open a lock. So let's take a look at this encounter and see what's involved with it. It says, I can smell the Trove Loot from here. It says each gear lock may draw one Trove Loot card. They keep the card or discard it and may draw another, which must be kept. Each gear lock may immediately make a lockpick attempt. Now, when you read this, it sounds a little bit weird because it sounds like this would be a bonus in terms of being able to see what's inside the Trove Loot. You don't get to pull a Trove Loot and look at the back of it, ever. You have to unlock it first. So you keep the card or discard it. The reason for that is there's checks on top of the Trove Loot that actually tell you what you need to roll in order to break open that particular Trove Loot. So when we take this first one, we'll be able to see what the check is on the second one and determine whether or not we want to go for that one versus this one. So we're going to go ahead and pull this Trove Loot, which is the first one we get to choose. And we have a 5, a 3, and a 1. So 5 lever, I don't know if you can see it there, 5 lever, which is brown. It has a brownish kind of dots around the outside. That signifies that this particular brown die, look at the die colors more so than anything else. But this color here, this has 3 chances of the 6 sides to land on a lock, or sorry, on a lever check. So basically when you roll this dice, you have a larger chance of pulling a lever roll. On this trip one, it's yellow with the beads around the outside, so it coordinates to the yellow die, which has 3 of 6 sides. That could be a trip. And then, and of course, you can also see along the bottom, you can also get the other variations on the other opposite 3 sides of those dice. So there's kind of like a 50-50 aspect there, where you can use, even though this is mainly for trip, you can still use it for something else if you happen to land a roll that'll aid that particular lock unpick. But you'll see how that works in a second. This one here is force. This one has 3 sides of force and 3 sides of something totally different, and our force one's only a 1. So this is the first Trove Loot that we can actually go after. If we choose, we'd like to go for this one. You can see the box size. I think they've actually designed the art very much specific to what's inside the Trove Loot. So you can see this is more of a squared off container, whereas this one here, which is another one we could go after if we want to, this one says on this card that we can discard this particular card right here, and we can immediately draw the next one, which we have to keep. And if we go for this one, the checks are actually much lower and easier to break through. It's a longer Trove Loot chest, so it's kind of tough because I'm looking at this one going, I don't know, the average, if you go 5, 3, so it's about 9 in total. This one is 3, 6, 7, 8. So actually, this seems to be overall more difficult to break into than this, just by adding up the numbers. And it also has a one that's more likely to make us fail. But the cool thing about this one is, if you fail on your first attempt on a lockpicking attempt, you always get another chance. And I'll show you a little bit about that when we talk about the art of lockpicking. So the question becomes, and I'm not going to sadly I don't want to end the video here and say, hey guys, which of these two do you want me to do? Because this would be the shortest video in the history of the world and would provide no benefit to anyone watching, and I really don't want to do that. So I'm going to choose to go after the one that has this 5. We got this stone hammer. I think we should pound through this lock and see if we can get into it. It is tempting to go for the longer one here because to me, I look at that and go, maybe there's a weapon in there. Maybe there's something like that, but I don't honestly know what are in these Trove Loots because I've never played this before. So, I shouldn't say I never played it before, but I've never revealed or opened a Trove Loot in this game yet. So this would be the first one. So I'm going to stick with this one. And it says I can go ahead and discard it if I want. I'm not going to. It says each gear lock may immediately make a lockpick attempt. Now, normally in your span of chart, we would be going. We did in the previous video. We did the new day. We tracked up to 7. Then we go to new encounter. So we drew this encounter card right here, and we choose in that encounter whether we're successful or not based on its encounter. But it's a passive encounter. It doesn't have a battle, so we were successful. So we go ahead and gather everything we're doing. So we're in this stage right here of dividing spoils and applying training points, log progress points. That's all of this. this lockpicking attempt basically occurs immediately, which means it's occurring in this phase right here, which for some strange reason on this little chart doesn't have the reward phase, because that's what actually this is. It should say reward, and I'm sure in later revisions of the game they'll probably add that, but this is the reward stage. And then you can see right here in recovery, you get another potential lockpicking attempt if you choose out of the 3 different options. We have normally in the past chose to do an individual option, but you can also make a lockpicking attempt, meaning this card here says make a lockpick attempt immediately. So we're going to do it right now because it's a free one. If we fail miserably, then we still have the opportunity during the recovery phase, knowing that Patches is completely full on health and we're already ready to go because of what we did in the previous day. We can just go ahead and make another lockpicking attempt and have 2 chances to break into this before we go to the next day, and that's a good thing. So let's get right into it. Let's see how this works. So we're going to talk about the art of lockpicking. So I'm going to move this to the side here. This is the Trove Loot we're currently going after. And we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to bring this chart over and we're going to do a little bit of reading here for those of you that aren't familiar with this or don't actually have the game at home. So this one says the art of lockpicking. Anytime you are facing a lock, be it on a trove sheet or chains around your ankles, so I guess you can get tied up, the art of lockpicking can be put to good use. You will find the most bindings in Daylore are comprised of 3 locks, lever, trip, force, like I talked about. To unlock them, you must roll lockpicking dice, so that's the 3 action dice and 1 intuition. These are the 3 action dice right here. Here is your 1 intuition die. And then it says, where are we? To equal or surpass the number on the lock type, which makes sense. So these are the locks. So we need a 5 lever, for instance. We need to roll these die and roll a 5 lever. Okay? So it says, roll action dice of the same lock type may be added together to solve a lock. Used action dice are exhausted for the remainder of the attempt. Any action dice not used to solve your current lock may be carried over or may be carried forward to the next without the same attempt. Your attempt is over when you have no more action die to apply to a lock or you solve all your locks. Unlike action dice, the intuition dice always rolled is kind of like your wild card, and it can potentially generate one of these 3 different things: a reroll action, a convert action, or a save action, all of which are good. Locks must be solved from left to right. Locks you open will stay open even for future attempts. So in other words, if we get through on this lockpicking attempt, quote unquote, from this immediately, allowing us to immediately do it, if we break through this one, and then we end up failing, we still successfully have finished 2, and on our next lockpicking attempt, we can start to go after the force, which is the 3rd one. So you keep your progress. If you were playing co-op, I could go ahead with Patches and try a lockpicking attempt right now, and then later on in the other phase I'd mentioned up here, recovery, another gear lock could come in, your friend, your buddy, and try to help you break open that Trove Loot if it really was like a really big issue and you wanted to get through it before the next day. So all of that's been taken care of. Locks must be solved from left to right. We already talked about that. Locks you open will stay open, blah, blah, blah. If you fail to open the starting lock of an attempt, you are able to make a 2nd attempt immediately once per day. So this is an interesting one. So again, it's a once per day thing. So this is only allowed to happen once. We are using this kind of immediate lockpick attempt, essentially, quote unquote. So we can go ahead, and if we fail this one, which I would be surprised if we do, because luckily we had pulled the wonderful stone hammer. So what I can do is when I go ahead and roll these, which I will do, so I'll grab this dice tray and put it over here, we're going to roll these 3 die together, and we're going to try and hope that we can land. Now the best case scenario would be that the brown dice, because it has 3 lock sides, is the one that lands on the lock die. Because when we use that to break into the lock, it becomes exhausted, and we can't use it for a future roll against the other locks. So if we pull it like this, say we got this and like this, we may end up going, oh shoot, now and let's say, forget this die for a second, we just say, oh okay, we got the 1 lock, we'll exhaust this one, but now that's hurting us for when we try to go for the trip lock, which associates itself more so in terms of odds to the yellow die. So we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully that's making a lot of sense, but I could be just droning on. So let's move past that quickly before I lose you in a tunnel of sleep. So we're going to go ahead and do our first check against this. Now the cool thing about it is I don't have to use the stone hammer off the offset. It says add 4 to an action die result during your lockpick attempt. So I can actually roll first and hope to actually do something. Now we also have, as we read in the bottom of that reference chart, it said that if you fail to open the starting lock of an attempt, the starting lock, you are able to make a 2nd attempt immediately. Meaning, if we are going to go ahead and we fail this 5, like say I roll and I don't get a single, success on that, I can re-roll again in terms of going for the next one. So we'll see how it goes. I doubt I'll fail because I really only need one, and then I can bust it open regardless. So that shouldn't happen. But here we go, guys. You ready? Let's see if we can crack this thing open. I'm gonna bring this over here for now. Here we go. What do we get? Wow, we went overkill on the lever, but hey guys, look at this. We got it on the die that's brown. That's perfect. Not only that, we got this one here. So these two essentially we don't need. Yes, we got a 5 lever here. So as of right now, we got a 5 lever. Now technically you could sit there and say, let's use these two together and exhaust them both in order to break open this first lock, and we don't even need to use the stone hammer. Yes, we could do that, and that actually might not be a terrible idea because we could use this for a future Trove Loot. But at the same time, if we just want to push ahead to make more use of our recovery phase, which will come very, very soon after we do this first immediate lockpick attempt, then we can, we'll just use a stone hammer now. There's 2 ways you can go about this right now. So I'm going to choose, because I'm really happy that this landed on the lock, I'm going to use this too, and I'm going to add 4 to an action die result during your lockpick attempt to total this up to 6. This is going to bust through that very first one. Now, there's another thing about this lockpicking that makes things interesting, and I want to do this correctly so you guys can see it. There's something really cool that they added to the Gearlock's playmats, and that is putting the Trove Loot right here. Now, you'll see these little tunnels here. This specifies whether you've cracked a lock, essentially. So once you pass the first lock, which is the lever lock, you move it here. Once you pass the trip lock, you move it off the map, I believe. There's only 2 nubs there, so I'm trying to think. Maybe you started below, sorry, like this. And then after you complete the lever, you go to the red, and then after you complete the trip, you go to the next one, and then 1 more, and it's unlocked, essentially. So as of right now, we're here, and we've essentially unlocked the first lock. So we can bump this to the first red position, and this is how you track, like if you failed your lockpicking attempt in between rounds, this is how you track how far along you are on that lockpick attempt, or like, successfully at least. One thing I'll talk about too is the initiative die and what I rolled here, because you're probably going, what the heck is that? That's a die with a little like halo above it, says +1. Let's take a look and read what it says. This one says save 1, give an action die +1, and do not exhaust it if you used, if it is, I think that's a spelling mistake, and do not exhaust it if used on this lock. Oh, cool. It's a save die. Interesting. Oh, in that case, I don't think I need to use my hammer. I'm trying to make sure I read that correctly. Okay, so give an action die +1 and do not exhaust it if used on this lock. Okay, so in that case, you know what, guys? I'm changing my mind. I'm not using the stone hammer at all. What I can actually effectively do with this save die is I can add, I could use this lever 3. So I'm going to exhaust this one, 2L. I'm going to put this one in with it. But I'm going to tie this initiative die to this one so that I can get this die back. This is going to give me 3 + 1 is 4, 5, 6. 6 is more than enough to bust through the first lock. So essentially now we're busting through the first lock. I didn't even need to use my stone hammer. The save ability on this die allows me to keep this die to not be exhausted for the next roll. So that's perfect. Now this die becomes exhausted. I'll throw it over here in the exhausted die side of the mat, and there we go. So we didn't even have to use our stone hammer in the end anyway, which is awesome. So you can get really cool abilities with that. As you can see, a reroll or converting, meaning like you can full on change it from like one side to another, and stuff like that. So it's very cool. But let's move on. So didn't even have to use the stone hammer. Amazing. I'm happy with that because maybe we'll get another Trove Loot in some weird situation. So we move on to trip. So trip has the yellow beads going around it, so it associates itself to the yellow die. So we're going to roll this and see if we can pull off 3. 3 is still a lot, and maybe we'll end up needing the stone hammer for that one. We'll see. But as you'll notice, we've passed the very first lock. So this free one that says if you fail to open the starting lock of an attempt, you are unable to make a second attempt immediately, or you are able to make a second attempt immediately. That second attempt now within this immediate attempt, if that makes sense, no longer applies. We've already passed the first lock. We have to go to the second one now. And if we fail the second one, we're done. Our immediate lock picking attempt is over, and we'd have to try again in a different time frame or different phase of the game. So here we go. Let's see if we can get this silly trip 3. Here we go. Oh gosh. Now the other thing too is anything that flies out of the mat I don't count. So we'll roll that again. Oh, look at that. 3 trip. Amazing. Okay, this is like the best lock picking experience I've ever had. I wish I could do this in real life. So here we go, 3 trip, that's perfect. I don't even need to use this. This is a convert. Now, if you guys don't understand what a convert is, I'll give you a quick little summary. This says change the lock type of either lock, trip, or force of 1 action die and use it. So essentially you're just converting it for its number. Very, very cool. So, but as of right now, so essentially you could take like a 3 trip, change it to 3 force or something like that, right? But we don't need that. We're going for trip. This is perfect. I can exhaust this die outright, and boom, we have now unlocked the second portion of this Trove Loot. Hey, and we're on the easiest one now. We just need a 1 force, and we've still got the 1 initiative die. Here we go. Let's see if we can pull this off in 1 attempt. Guys, we didn't. Okay, so we got a 1 trip. So we didn't get exactly what we wanted, but what is this thing? Oh, very cool. You don't get, this is like this is working out perfect. I'm like able to show you guys every single side of every dice right now. So the reroll action is 1 action die, and also, sorry, it says reroll 1 action die and also the intuition die. Reroll another reroll? Yes, you can do it again. So that reroll means even though we got 1 trip, and that's we needed 1 force, this allows us to reroll everything here. I shouldn't say, it says reroll 1 action die, sorry. And we just happen to have 1. Because this playthrough has been going so perfect and everything aligns up so nicely. Let's see if we can get that force. Oh gosh. Okay, so we didn't get it, but the cool thing is, guys, we got exactly what we needed on the intuition die. Regardless, this is a convert. So this convert lets us change the lock type of lock, trip, and force of 1 action die and use it. So we can change the lock type. I can sit there and say, this is 2 lock, I'm changing that to 1 force. Or sorry, to 2 force. That's what it keeps its amount. But boom, there you go. That one gets exhausted. Doesn't matter because we're at the end, guys. We've done it. We have unlocked the Trove Loot in our immediate attempt. That's amazing. We don't have to waste any other time. Let's take a look at what we've got. Hey, that looks cool. We got ourselves a mechanical boomerang. It's a permanent item. It says backup plan extension 2 bones. Interesting. So what I'm understanding from that, if I'm correct, is it means we get to keep this item in our inventory, and when we get to 2 bones, instead of doing the heal gear lock action, we're also able to invoke this particular item as well. Very cool. This could come in really handy. Select any baddie and do 2 damage. Roll a d6. On a 1 to 3, the boomerang comes back to you and can be used again this battle. On a 4 to 5, it is lost, and this backup plan is unavailable for the rest of the battle. That is incredible. What an amazing item to get for battle with Drellen. Like, I could not have asked for a better one. And you can kind of see it's really cool. When you think of a mechanical boomerang and even how it's built and structurally and stuff like that, if you look at the actual box, it's really cool how they've designed the crates to actually make sense. Like, this could actually fit in that crate. It's not like, oh yeah, the boomerang was sitting in this box. It's just awesome. I love it. And the artwork's fantastic. I love the sketching kind of style of things. So it says at the bottom here, 50% chance to return. That's Goblin Tech for you. That's Tink saying that again. So there we go. Guys, we got ourselves our first Trove Loot, a permanent boost. We didn't even have to use our hammer. Insane. Like, I assumed we would have had to use that. Not the case. The other cool thing is we've now done, we haven't totally finished though, so I don't get too far ahead of myself. You'll notice there is still 1 training point that we get, guys, and I'm absolutely going for fast hands. This is something that we wanted to get earlier. This is something that allows us to either get bones, times 2, times 2, times 3, times all kinds of different times there. So if we put that now in our skill area, we have an extra die now during our fights. What does this thing do? Well, I'm sure many of you guys know, but for those of you that don't have this game at home, let's take a look and see what it says. It says heal assist, and you put this, it's an instantly used item, and it's locked in, so it would end up going into this area here. And what does it do for us? A rolled med kit or med pack die result may be multiplied by that number. Amazing. So what you do essentially is you roll this die with this. And so when you're playing, you'd actually pull these 2 things together and roll them, and you'd multiply, hopefully if you get a multiply rather than a bone, although bones at this point now with the boomerang is actually kind of nice, along with healing and other things. But we could roll this and say you rolled a 2 and you rolled a 2, bam, you've got yourself a 4 heal. It basically is just making you that much more effective on your med kits. And I think it also mentioned med pack, but we haven't gotten that far yet. We had a choice of these 2. Now we're going down this track. You can see the arrows. I think well, it's actually plainly obvious. You guys have voiced your opinions that the bone saw is greatly needed, and I 100% agree with you. Having another attack die to add to the pile is never a bad thing, especially when we don't even have to bother trying to train for it. It's just an automatic get. Sorry to be right here. That's it though. We've now fully finished this particular encounter. Now you'll notice it's passive, so nothing else happens, and there's nothing along the bottom. Most of our encounters have had things on the bottom which are called counter rewards, but none of those happen. These are choice rewards. That's what they're called when they're up here. So we've resolved this. We actually gain it, and you'll notice there isn't a single progress point on this one. So this is an interesting one where you can actually burn a day going to get this stuff, and you don't you don't progress. But thankfully we pulled this when we were already where we needed to be, so we've already got enough progress regardless, and we are good to go. So that ends now wow, what a perfect way to end that lock picking attempt. Now we can move past this divide spoils and apply training points log process and move into the recovery stage. The coolest part about this on day number 7 is Patches is at full health, so I don't have to worry about wasting one of my 3 options or individual options on resting and recovery. I could search for better loot. I could also scout the area. I can make a lockpicking attempt, but it's pointless now. This is where I was saying, like, if we had failed along the way, this is where I could have had another attempt. And the reason I had the first attempt is because the encounter said you could do it immediately. This one says trade loot within your party. We don't have any party anyway, so that doesn't apply. So really we can look at this. And what I'm thinking is we've never done the search for better loot, so why not? I think I've shown you guys everything else. I've shown scout the area, rest and recover. Let's do search the area for better loot. I think that'd be fun. It actually says when you do that you discard 1 loot of your choice, roll 6 attack dice, and for each bone you roll, you reveal a loot card and you can keep 1. I do realize I could scout the area and help myself that way, but you know what, guys, I kind of want to have a little bit of fun and see if we can boost up our items here. Now, which item should we get rid of? That's the real big question here. We only have 1 more day. It's highly unlikely that we're probably going to get a Trove Loot. I'm really tempted to chuck the stone hammer. And the reason that I'm tempted to chuck the stone hammer now is that I may not even get another attempt at a Trove Loot going forward. The other argument would be this has to stay for sure because it gives me extra dex, but this one, I could chuck this one as well. So really I could throw either of these 2 in order to try to go for better Trove Loot. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to go ahead and make a personal choice for me. I'm going to run with that choice. But what I want you guys to do, well, actually, I'm trying to think here if that'll make any sense. I don't want to give you guys a choice of this and then move past it because that wouldn't really be fair. I might have to make this decision on my own here rather than leaving it with you guys, which is, well, actually, no, this is perfect. I'll leave it with you guys on this one. I want you guys to chime in, let me know which item from, like, I guess at this point, really, what do you think I should do? Do you think I should scout the area and we should maybe have an attempt, it's just an attempt to try to reveal, we'll be successful on something, we'll be able to see something coming up, which will allow us to either keep a baddie on top or put it to the bottom. So do we want to scout the area, or do we want to toss one of these 3 loot cards, what you do is you roll 6 attack dice. So here's an example roll, for instance, and for every many bones you get to pull a loot. So you can see that one completely failed. So there's a very big risk that I could end up just chucking a loot and losing it, right? So this is where I really want you guys to chime in, let me know whether you think it's a worthwhile thing to do. So we'll take a look and see. Give me your comments in the comment section below. If you like what you've seen so far, you enjoy the lockpicking kind of tutorial there, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed the first time to the channel, or you're just watching and you've never subscribed to my channel in the first place, please do. That would be awesome. I really appreciate the support, and we'll continue our adventures in Daylore in the next video. So I'll see you next time, everybody, and keep on rolling solo.